If you drive in the United States, there's a real chance you've already paid a fine that never should have existed. I'm not talking about speeding. I'm not talking about running a red light. I'm talking about a camera, a machine, that recorded something wrong, and nobody checked it before the bill landed in your mailbox. Entire cities are seeing camera-issued tickets skyrocket while driver behavior stays exactly the same. That's not a coincidence. That's a system full of flaws that nobody audits. And you're the one footing the bill, literally. I've seen this wreck innocent people's insurance. I've seen points show up on driving records that never should have been there. And the worst part, most people never find out they could have fought it. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how these cameras fail, why almost nobody questions it, and what you can do to turn the tables in your favor. Before we continue, if you want to know your real rights, no runaround, hit like right now and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot more people see this video and avoid falling into this trap. Now let me show you a number that might make you uncomfortable. In some U.S. cities, the volume of tickets generated by traffic cameras has jumped more than 40% in a single year. 40%. Now stop and think about that with me. Did drivers in that city suddenly, collectively, decide to drive worse? Did everyone just decide, all at once, to start running red lights and flooring the gas pedal? No, that's not what's happening. Traffic behavior doesn't change overnight like that. People don't suddenly become 40% more reckless. So why did the tickets go up so much? That question is at the center of everything I want to show you today, because when you look closely at the data, you notice something. The increase isn't tied to more people committing violations. It's tied to more cameras being installed, more contracts between cities and the private companies that operate these systems. And here's the point nobody talks about: more technical malfunctions being treated as if they were real violations. That completely changes how you should look at that ticket sitting in your mailbox. We grow up believing a simple equation: a ticket equals driver error. You messed up, you pay. But that equation breaks down when the machine generating the ticket can't be trusted. And the problem is, nobody tells you that. Nobody sends you a letter saying, this camera has been out of calibration for 8 months, or this license plate reading system has a documented error rate. You just get the amount due, the deadline, and a veiled threat that ignoring it will cost you even more. In cities like Chicago, New York, and several across the state of Florida, city governments and the private contractors that operate these cameras have a direct financial incentive. The more tickets issued, the more money comes in. That doesn't automatically mean fraud, but it does mean one thing you need to understand. Nobody inside that system has any interest in telling you the camera got it wrong. The financial interest all points in the opposite direction, toward confirming the ticket, not questioning it. And that's exactly where the problem I want to unpack with you lies. If the number of tickets is rising without drivers actually driving worse, something in that machinery is failing silently. And it's that machinery, the cameras themselves, that I want to talk about now. Now I want to show you what's behind these cameras, because almost nobody explains this in simple terms. People picture a traffic camera as something perfect, almost infallible, like a robot that never makes mistakes. But that's far from reality. These cameras are electronic equipment with sensors, software, and timing systems that need constant maintenance. And any equipment that depends on calibration can absolutely drift out of line without anyone noticing. Let's go point by point. First, there's calibration drift over time. Speed sensors and radar units lose precision as the months go by. This is documented, it's well known, and it's exactly why the laws in several U.S. states, like Ohio, Texas, and California, require periodic calibration testing for a radar-generated ticket to be legally valid. The problem is that, in practice, most people don't even know they can request that calibration report to contest a ticket. Second point, license plate misreads, the famous OCRE, the technology that automatically reads your plate. That system makes more mistakes than you'd think, especially at night, in the rain, or when two plates from different states have similar-looking characters. There are already documented cases in the United States of drivers who got a ticket because the system mixed up an 8 with a B or misread a New Jersey plate as a New Mexico one. Third, yellow light timing. This one's serious. Traffic engineering manuals set a minimum yellow light duration based on the speed of the road. If a city shortens that time, sometimes by mistake, sometimes to optimize flow, the number of red light tickets spikes instantly, and the driver didn't do anything differently. The light just got shorter. And the fourth point, which is the most unsettling, on busy roads, especially at high-traffic intersections in big cities, cameras can capture the wrong vehicle. Two cars close together, bad camera angles, a glare of light, and the system links the violation to the wrong plate. What I want to make clear to you is this. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are known technical failures, documented in municipal audits and court cases. The machine makes mistakes, and most of the time, nobody is auditing it in the driver's favor. That gap is exactly what creates the situation I want to tell you about next. A driver from the Atlanta metro area in Georgia, I'll call him Mark to protect his identity, works a fixed shift and drives through the same intersection every single day on his way to work. One ordinary morning, a few weeks after just another routine pass through that light, a letter arrives in the mail, a red light camera ticket for $190. Mark was confused. He remembered the intersection, remembered driving through it, but didn't remember running any red light. The letter came with a photo, a little dark, a little blurry, showing his car in the middle of the intersection. And he thought what most of us would think. Well, the camera recorded it, it must be right. He paid it, moved on with his life. What Mark didn't know is that, at that very intersection, the yellow light timing had been changed months earlier during a city traffic signal resynchronization project, and it had fallen below the recommended minimum for that road's speed. That meant practically any driver who passed through there driving completely normally was at risk of getting ticketed. Not because they were driving badly, but because the system itself had been set up in a way that made the violation almost inevitable. And here's the ripple effect that nobody sees in the moment. That ticket added points to Mark's driving record. 6 months later, those points showed up when his car insurance renewed. An increase of almost $30 a month. $30 a month for 12 months for a ticket that maybe never should have existed in the first place. And the worst part, Mark never connected the dots. To him, it was just another bill arriving. One more amount buried among that month's other payments. The ticket disappeared into the routine, but its costs stuck around, quietly eating into his budget for far longer than he realized. This is what I call invisible injustice. It's not a glaring error. It's not a newspaper scandal. It's an ordinary person going about their routine, paying for a failure that wasn't theirs, and never finding out. Multiply that story by thousands of drivers across dozens of cities, and you start to understand the real size of the problem. Now, I need to tell you about the barrier that stops most drivers from even trying to fight a camera ticket. And that barrier isn't just bureaucratic, it's psychological first and institutional second. We grow up with an idea drilled into our heads. The camera doesn't lie. It's almost automatic. You see a photo of your car, a date, a time, and your brain processes it as irrefutable proof. Unlike a ticket issued by a police officer, where you can at least question his human perception, a camera seems to carry this veneer of absolute objectivity. Machines don't lie, right? The thing is, machines also don't explain themselves. It doesn't tell you whether it was calibrated 6 months ago or 3 years ago. It doesn't tell you whether that intersection's yellow light meets the legally required minimum. It just hands you a number and a bill. And the system, whether municipal or state-run, has zero incentive to help you understand any of this. Quite the opposite. Look at how this process is usually designed in the United States. You get the notice, and the window to contest it is generally short, in many states, somewhere between 15 and 30 days. Miss that window, even due to lack of information, and you lose your right to challenge it. The contest form, when one even exists, is often confusing, full of technical jargon, asking for documents the average person doesn't even know exist, like the equipment's calibration report or its maintenance record. In some places, there's even a fee just to open a contest process, which makes a lot of people think, why pay a fee for something I might not even win? It's easier to just pay the ticket and move on. That calculation, made individually by thousands of drivers every single day, is exactly what keeps this system running. It's not some conspiracy cooked up by a bad actor in an office somewhere. It's a structural design that, in practice, pushes drivers down the path of least resistance. Accept and pay. And here's the most important point I want you to take away. The real opponent in this story isn't the police officer, isn't City Hall, and isn't even the law itself. The real opponent is lack of information. It's not knowing that yellow light might be out of spec. It's not knowing you have the right to request the calibration report. It's not knowing the deadline exists, but that it can be met if you act fast. The good news is that once you know this, the game changes completely. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you now. Look, after everything I've shown you so far, I need to be straight with you. This has a solution, and the solution isn't as complicated as they make it seem. You have the right to request the maintenance records and calibration report for the specific camera that ticketed you. That's a real right. Most municipal electronic enforcement programs are required by state law to keep those documents available because the ticket's validity depends directly on them. If the equipment wasn't calibrated within the required time frame, or if nobody can produce that documentation for you, that alone throws out the fine in many states. It's that simple. There's something else you can check: the yellow light timing. I know it sounds overly technical, but it isn't. Traffic departments are required to follow engineering manuals. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices is one of them that set the minimum yellow light duration based on the road speed. And look, this isn't hypothetical. Drivers in Dallas and Nashville have formally requested this information from their city's traffic department and gotten their tickets thrown out because the light was below the legally required standard. And then there's the notification deadline. Several states require the ticket notice to reach you within a set period after the violation was recorded. Missed that deadline? The whole process is invalid from the start, no matter what else is true. Notice something: you don't need to be a lawyer to do any of this. You just need to know this path exists. And, if it applies to your situation, find someone who understands the process to help you gather the right documentation within the right deadline. That's the shift in perspective I want to leave you with. The driver who used to get that letter, feel their stomach drop, and just go pay it, that driver now stops and thinks, wait a second, let me check if that camera is calibrated. Let me check the timing on that light. Let me confirm the notification deadline was actually met. He stops being a hostage to an automated system and starts understanding how that system actually works from the inside and uses its own flaws in his favor. In the end, this was never about you driving badly. It was about a system full of quiet loopholes that bets on your lack of information to keep running without anyone questioning it. Now you know. And from here on, the choice between paying without checking anything or demanding proof that ticket is legitimate, that choice is yours. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know, hit like right now and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot more drivers find this information before simply paying a ticket that maybe never should have existed in the first place. See you in the next video.